Well, a study currently underway at Saskatchewan's Royal University Hospital is examining how therapy dogs might help people in the emergency room with their mental health. A researcher works with hospital staff to find patients who are interested in meeting with a dog, and then they observe the interaction. The dogs are provided by the St. John's Ambulance Dog Therapy Program. Alexandria Pavelich is the lead researcher. She joins us now. Alexandria, thanks for your time.
Hi, Garth. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, what prompted you to want to study the interaction between therapy dogs and people with mental health concerns in the ER?
For sure. Well, I'm a researcher at the University of Saskatchewan, and I work in the One Health and Wellness office. And all of our research there looks at how our relationships with dogs can help benefit the lives of humans. And for my master's research, I was looking at how service dogs can help veterans who are living with PTSD and at high risk for suicide. But our office has also previously looked at how therapy dogs can help people who are in the emergency room dealing with pain. So really, this is just a natural extension of those other studies, and nobody's really looked at that mental health component in the emergency department. So we were pretty excited to provide some dogs to look at that different lens.
How did you go about connecting therapy dogs and emergency room patients?
So basically what happens, we're working with an amazing team of psych nurses in the emergency, and the psych nurses actually, they help identify who they think may benefit. And a lot of times it's people who have been waiting for quite a long time. Some of the patients that we're seeing, they've been in for, overnight waiting to have a care plan made or get discharged. But for the most part, it's really people who they're having a hard time connecting with the staff themselves. So we kind of go in as the dog team to see if we can help de-escalate and kind of bring down some of that anxiety. And they're finding amazing results every time that we go into the room.
Were there any issues?
Any issues? I think the only issue we've had to date is that we had one patient who really wanted to visit with a dog, but he actually had a dog allergy. But luckily, we actually have dogs on our team that are hypoallergenic, meaning that they won't have any type of reaction. So we just kind of called on those teams, and the gentleman was able to visit. But for the most part, there's really been no issues, and we've been really well received in the emergency to date.
What breeds or what types of dogs are used? Like what breeds and what sort of temperament do these dogs need to have?
Well, in Saskatchewan, we've got over 150 therapy dog teams working with St. John Ambulance. And on this study, we've got 7 teams specifically, and we have every type of dog you can imagine. Some of them are rescues from up north. Some are pure breeds. We've got little dogs, big dogs. But the big thing is that these dogs have to really love people. They want to, get hugs, get kisses, get pets, and they do have to go through a testing process with St. John's where we put them through a whole bunch of different scenarios to kind of test their resilience to see how they do in high-stress environments. So not every dog is built for this work, but our teams are really specially selected to take them into the hospital.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that because emergency rooms, on a busy night, they can be pretty hectic, crazy places, people in distress. How do the dogs handle that sort of situation?
Well, everything that we do in our research and our work, we work from a really heavy animal welfare perspective, and we really want people to understand when we're doing this type of work that these dogs aren't tools. We're really cognizant of how the dogs are receiving, the stress of the environment, but also that they are sentient beings. They feel pain and emotions in the same way that we do, but also that these interactions, they're really a give and take thing, meaning that both the dogs and the humans are benefiting. And in this study with the therapy dogs, none of the findings that we have would exist if the dog did not enjoy and love what it's doing and want to be visiting with people. And the environment doesn't really seem to affect them because they're just there one-on-one to really have a nice visit and provide support to somebody who needs a little extra help.
Well, when you've connected to therapy dogs, and especially people that are having mental health issues, what happened?
So the big thing that we're noticing is when I go in to see if somebody even wants to have a visit, so, checking for things like allergies or if they have a dog fear, a lot of the times when I go in to just gauge their interest, they're kind of looking at their feet. They won't make eye contact with me. A lot of times, they might be having a panic attack, so they're shaking and crying. But after we've been in there for about 15 to 20 minutes, the patient completely changes. They finally have a smile on their face. They're willing to chat with us. And they are always telling us how this made a huge difference for their mental state, because we also know from just existing research that if you even just pet a dog for a few minutes, that takes down your stress hormones, like your cortisol levels, but it also increases your oxytocin, which are those feel-good hormones. So just by the nature of the dog being in the space with them, their physiology is changing. And then in turn, we're finding that the staff are better able to communicate and help the patient, because the patient is just a lot more open after we've been in to have that visit with them.
Does anybody else in the ER, like the staff, do they benefit from this?
Absolutely. And it's funny because when I initially set out to do the study, I was only looking at the mental health patients. But as we started, coming in regularly, I've spent about 50 hours so far in there with the dogs. We're noticing how it's helping alleviate tons of the stressors that the staff are facing as well, because I'm sure you probably had guests speaking to this already. Yeah. The emergency departments right now, there's bed shortages, staff shortages. It's just a really chaotic space. But even the staff, they're coming over and saying things like, oh my God, this made my shift. This is exactly what I needed today. And it's just really providing that boost and morale that they need in that space while they're so stressed out and feeling burnt out. And it's just bringing a smile to their face and providing that momentary distraction they need so that they can also sort of reset and do better for the patients as well. Were there any surprises, Alexandria? Has anything transpired during this process that surprised you, that you weren't expecting? Well, because I've been embedded in this line of work for so long, I'm always surprised, and I think everyone is when we realize what a huge impact that humans and animals have, that dynamic relationship between them. But I think one of the big ones is just how complementary this care is turning out to be by bringing the dogs in. Just as an example, we had a gentleman who came in and he was quite suicidal, and he wasn't willing to speak to really anybody. He was very untrusting of the staff. But after we had a visit with him, about 20 minutes later, the nurse came back and kind of said, you guys going in there saved us so much time, because he was really opening up. And he said how this dog had really just provided a sense of hope that he needed. He came in wanting to kill himself. He walked out feeling like everything had shifted for him. So just the impact that this 15-minute visit can have, that will probably never stop surprising me.
Yeah. Where would you like this research to go next, Alexandria?
Well, we're really lucky in Saskatchewan that we're one of the only emergency departments that allows therapy dogs in for visits. And I've been granted a 3-year study extension to continue to look at this and provide more science behind it.
All right.
So really, we're just wanting to extend this to other institutions, whether that's, corrections, healing centers, addiction centers. We're just wanting people to recognize, how important the human-animal bond is.
Alexandria, fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for taking time for us today.
No, thank you so much for having me, Garth.
Alexandria Pavelich is the lead researcher and doctoral student at the University of Saskatchewan, and she was in Saskatoon.